Welcome. Let's take a few minutes together to see how you can use the Practice Anatomy Lab PAL 4.0 to help you study for your anatomy and physiology class. We always begin with the downloadable Temple College lab book so you know what you're responsible for on any organ system. For example, if you click the lymphatic system, you see you only have one page of structures you must learn. If you open the skeletal system, you'll find you have several pages of structures to learn. We'll pause here on bones of the skull, and in particular the sphenoid bone, so I can show you a few things later. Let's make our way over to mastering and open the study area to find PAL 4.0. Before we look at any of the organ systems, notice we also have a section on histology. Let's start our tour here. You can see that we not only have the four major tissue types, epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous, but we also have representative tissues from each of the organ systems. We'll start with epithelial and open the gallery. Notice that this is organized into simple and stratified epithelia. We'll click here on item 8 and then turn on the labels. As I tap on the label, the name is pronounced.
Simple cuboidal epithelium.
Back to the gallery and over to stratified epithelia. I'll click on slide 17, where we see all the details of pseudostratified columnar epithelium. Let's leave epithelium behind and go back to home in the top menu, and then into the muscular system. First, notice there are tabs across the top that would take us to various body areas: head and neck, where we are now, trunk, upper limb, and lower limb. Also note that for every organ system we see cadaver, plastic anatomical models, and the new 3D model, as well as histology of the current system. I'll open anatomical models and then click gallery to see which anatomical models we have. You'll see several things that we have in our own anatomy lab and a few that you may have not have seen before. Let's open the first one and turn on the labels. Click on the label to hear the name pronounced.
Masseter.
There's a special feature in the muscular system. If you see a camera icon, you can click on that for a short video showing origin, insertion, action, and innervation. I'm not going to play that. I'll leave that for you to explore. Let's have a quick tour of the 3D model. On the left side, you see an info panel that tells you all about the current scene. You also see some controls. We get a slider we can pull down to peel away superficial muscles to see deeper layers. Clicking the three dots is where we find help. Now let's open chapters to see what this 3D model is really all about. Here in the head and neck, we have 7 chapters. We'll switch to chapter 3. This is head and neck, deep muscles, anterior view. There are a lot of muscles in this chapter that you're responsible for. Recall this is a 3D model, so let's grab it and turn it around, zoom in and out a bit. Open the navigation tools in the lower right and click recenter to bring this back to home. We can also switch to pan from rotate to move the model from right to left, up and down. Let's leave the muscles and visit the skeletal system. Here we'll open the 3D model of the skull, and in Chapter 2, take a look at the cranial bones. I'm going to select the sphenoid bone, and with the item controls, I'm going to isolate the sphenoid. We can turn this around and get a great look at the shape of this very interesting bone. But wait, there's more. Back in the chapters, in Chapter 6, we actually see lots of details of the sphenoid bone. I'll click on foramen ovale and then click on the real skull to take a look at where we can find this structure in the actual skull. Let's look at a couple more features. Back to home and then cardiovascular. Once again, let's have a quick peek at the anatomical models and the gallery to see what models are available. Then back to the main cardiovascular page for some fun stuff. 3D model and chapter 10. One thing I like about these chapters is they almost always end with an animation. Here we see a normal heartbeat. Tap the right ventricle, and I'm going to use the item control to hide the surface of the right ventricle. We'll do a little rotation and turn the animation back on, and now we can see the valves here animated. We've got the right AV valve and the pulmonary semilunar valve animated. I'll turn the heart just a little bit remove the outer wall of the left ventricle, tilt it a little bit, and zoom in, and we have a great view of the aortic semilunar valve animated, as well as the mitral valve, and a little bit of view of the pulmonary semilunar valve as well. Finally, let's have a look at PAL flashcards. These can be a great study tool. For our class, I would suggest you use the anatomical models. Submit, and then pick an organ system to review. I'll pick respiratory. Hit submit, and the easy thing to do here is hit select all, but you might want to go through and uncheck things that are not listed in our lab book. For example, the hyoid bone. While you do need to know it, you don't need to know it in respiratory system. If you're in respiratory, you're in A&P 2. Hyoid bone was back in the skeletal system, back in A&P 1. I'll leave the rest of these alone. And down at the bottom, I can either click review or quiz, either one. I'm going to click review, and from all of these we have checked, I will get a random deck of 10 cards. What we see here is the first image of 10. I can scroll through and look at the other images. Let's go back to image number 1. What I want to do is flip that card around to see what's being pointed at. That's external nares. Let's flip that back around and move on to the next card. I think I know what that is, but let's flip it and take a look. Yep, that's the superior lobe of the right lung. I can switch to quiz mode, and I see the exact same 10 images, but when I flip those around, now I've actually got a multiple choice question. This quiz is not for a grade. Don't freak out. I'll choose external nares here, check my answer. That one happens to be right. Let's move on to the next image. Hey, actually, I jumped forward to 3. Let's flip that around, and we'll call that one a cricoid cartilage. That's wrong, and it's going to tell me that that's the cricothyroid ligament. There's lots more, and I encourage you to explore PAL 4.0, the Practice Anatomy Lab, to help you study for A&P.